Okay, good morning. We are recording this episode here for viewing at a later date. Welcome back. I'm not sure if it's September or if it's November. I'm really kind of confused as to what month it is right now, but the calendar tells me it's September. So that's kind of what I've been going with since March here. So we're going to keep rolling with those punches. Brian, I think I'll probably turn it over to you to get going here. We don't have a formal agenda for the day here, but we do have some stuff. So I'll let you kind of roll with that and let me know when you want me to hop back in with any updates or anything for IPRA.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks and welcome everyone. It's good to see everyone again. Hope everyone had a good, easy summer as much as possible. But kind of want to, as Kelly was talking about, we don't really have a formal agenda like we normally do. We're going to try to bring in kind of some speakers as we go through. I know one of them today is George. George is from Council Huffmaker. Basically, if you were with us a couple years back, Jeff Lucas was talking about this presentation. And I've been using it since then. And I know a couple other agencies have been using it, but it is fantastic. It's a good tool to definitely work with your supervisors and kind of figure out what is a good way to go about with the pool. And then Julene from AOAP will be joining us today too. And then we are gonna kind of look at after the two speakers, just kind of go back to the way we have been, a little bit of the round table. We wanna start kind of getting some ideas of what is the goals of this summer or this fall, this winter? What are we starting to work on? Where do we want to grow? Where can we help at type of deal? Like for example, I know November, we're slating a maintenance and I'm currently in the process of working on a survey to be approved by IPRA and kind of go through and kind of get more information from that crew. But so that's kind of leading into what the next few Zoom calls will be. Wanted to give you an update. I know I had a couple questions on that, and Kelly, feel free to chime in, but with the IT cancellations in Iowa City, I know Kate is trying to look at a reschedule, but right now, our American Red Cross is saying absolutely no way, and they're having troubles of trying to actually get ITs there. So it was kind of a bummer, but not giving up yet. So we'll see what the next few months bring, and hopefully we can get those IT academies back hopefully soon, as soon as we can. Otherwise, I don't really have too much right now currently, and we could actually, I mean, you can give some updates from IPRA if you wish, or we can turn it over to George if he wants to go.
Yeah, Georgia, if you're ready to go, I'll be cognizant of your time. We can save my updates for later here.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Yeah, and it looks like it says I'm not able to share my screen. Is there a way to give me permission to do that? Oh, there we go. All right. Okay, good morning. Well, thanks for having me this morning. Brian, thanks for the kind words. I didn't know the session had that kind of impact, so that's good to hear. So I'm George Dynas, work for Councilman Hunsaker. We plan and design aquatic facilities, and myself and a few others are former municipal aquatic operators. I myself got my start in aquatics. Actually, the summer of 1991, I joined a summer swim team and then became a lifeguard in 1994. Did swim coaching and swim lesson teaching up until 1999. And then I started full-time in aquatics, working in an indoor facility for the first 7 years and then running 4 outdoor facilities for the next 6.5 years for the city of Garland, Texas, here in the Dallas area where I reside. And one thing specifically I thought was interesting, and I went from the indoor to the outdoor facility, was I would get, especially this time of year, oh, you got 8 months off, huh? Don't you? Right. And, or in February or March, oh, you still have, 3 months until you have any real work to do. And so that's one of the reasons that I put, these slides together, because I was tired of hearing that and just wanted to give people some ammunition and a plan to to get the off season in order to give them a successful summer season. So I put this together for maybe the aquatics manager who maybe doesn't have that plan yet, for the Parks and Rec director who wants to give their aquatics manager a plan. I would also hear from aquatics managers, ironically enough, oh yeah, I don't have anything to do for 6 months now. And I hated hearing them say that. So I wanted to give them a plan of what they could be doing. I gave it for the dry side folks, right, that don't think that aquatics people do anything in the off season. And so maybe you find yourself in one of these categories or none, or if anything, hopefully it'll reinforce what you were always doing. And what we are always doing is dealing with those unique aquatics people, right? The water is always too cold, lady. The 2 people in a lane is too crowded, lap swimmer. We got the inappropriate comment and swimwear guys. We got the water aerobics person who takes up the whole lane just to walk in in one area when there's perfectly available space elsewhere. We have people trying to sneak in on other people's wristbands, or we have moms that lie about their kids' age. So there's to save a buck on admission. So that's some of the beauty of aquatics, is that we get to work with interesting people. And myself being a 40-year-old dude, I like Seinfeld, and this is what coworkers think that we do in the off season, when actually we are riding a unicycle, on a treadmill, flying a kite, and doing lifting weights all at the same time. And so what I'd like to do is just walk through the different months of the year and give you some ideas about what your life could look like. And so that summer season that maybe you just got through, maybe you didn't. I know it was kind of hit or miss, my colleagues within the industry, whether they got to operate this summer or not. Some of them started late. Some of them started on time and got shut down immediately. Others made it through the whole season. Others almost got there until the locals went back to school. They came to contact with somebody at school, and they had to quarantine. And then one of my buddies had no staff to get him through the last 3 weeks, because all of his workers were high school students, and they all had to quarantine for 14 days, and there was 14 days left in the season. So he had to shut it down early. But in that June through August time period, what I used to like to do is create just a list that I would carry with me wherever I went, and that would have successes, issues, and questions. And really my goal there was to try to analyze my operation on a daily basis, but then also to have a record of what happened the summer of 2020, so I would not have to deal with some of those issues in the summer of 2021. One of the things I actually did was write down every question that a staff member asked me for an entire summer. And then I spent the entire off season answering all those questions in a manual for my management team. And my thought there was, if my team members are asking me questions, that means I did not train them well enough on the front end. And so I was getting just barraged with, what do I do in this situation? What do I do in this situation? What do I do in this situation? And I thought, wow, that's great that you're asking these questions, but it also reflects poorly on me that I did not train you how to handle that given situation. And so one of the things I ran into a couple of years ago at one of the fitness center I take my kids to swim at, she's new, she's nervous, but I covered rotations in the 5-minute scanning strategy. And this is when I walked out to the outdoor pool. I checked in to get my kid his little wristband that he had passed the swim test. And this is what the lifeguard was saying to the supervisor about the new lifeguard they just put on stand. Oh, she's new and nervous, but I covered rotations and the 5-minute strategy, so we're good to go. As if that's all that there is to cover, right, for a new lifeguard. So that was actually a little concerning, right? At least they have some plan for training, but it was actually more concerning that this is apparently all that they covered. And I've never seen a lifeguard at this facility do a 5-minute scanning strategy. The other things that I see when I'm out and about traveling in my work is I run into some interesting facilities, interesting behaviors by lifeguards, you know, whether it's using the tube as a relaxation piece instead of a piece of equipment that can save lives, as you see in the left two pictures. Or the picture on the right is the fitness center that I take my kids to. And this was, unfortunately, it was just the classic terrible rotation. So you have the lifeguard that gets off stand that just immediately walks away, doesn't even wait to see if the lifeguard is doing anything. And then not only is that lifeguard not immediately getting on the lifeguard stand and starting scanning, he's going to go ahead and adjust the umbrella while he's not even wearing a tube. And so from my perspective, this is a facility that has the mindset of nothing is going to happen today. Actually, all three of these pictures, you know, show that the mindset of the lifeguards at this facility is nothing is going to happen today. And that is the worst mindset that your lifeguards could ever have. And so I think there's a couple of reasons why they have that. Maybe one, it's a low-risk facility, but maybe two, it starts with that top-level management. Maybe they have not been trained that something could happen today. And so just want to, show that, you know, I don't want to, you know, disparage the management of these facilities for one maybe rogue lifeguard, but specifically at the facility that I go to, it's a habit of, you know, it's ingrained in them that nothing is going to happen today. I see it every time I go. So a couple of things you can do, you know, throughout June and August: visit your facility as a guest to gain a new frame of reference, visit other facilities to see what they were doing if you actually have time to do that. And then one of the things I used to do was conduct routine meetings with my management team, and I started implementing one-on-ones with my senior leadership to help us forge a better bond, because I had 4 facilities that were spread throughout town, so I could only spend at any given time, you know, 25% of my time with any one facility. And so what I found is getting all of the managers together at a time when there was no programs, which happened to be Saturday morning at 8 a.m. We didn't have anything on Saturday morning from 8 to 9 a.m. And so we could get together every couple of weeks and talk about the challenges that we were facing. The other thing I did was, you know, remember to analyze, you know, the team member deficiencies and identify training components for next year, like I talked about, writing down those list of questions of areas that they're not sure of. And then also, you know, start to remember to recognize your team members. And I know that's a common thread through all aquatic sessions, you know, looking at the aquatic directors and managers group on Facebook, or the NRPA Aquatics group on Facebook. Every single week there's a question on there about how do we engage and retain and recognize our employees. And so I always like to say that next year's recruitment starts with this year's retention, that if you want to have a full staff for next year without having to recruit, well, just try to keep everybody you have this year, right? And you're always going to lose 10 to 20% for whatever reason, but I like to say that, hey, next year's recruitment starts with this year's retention. So if we treat people well, we give them a great place to work, and we give them, you know, vision and motivation and recognition that they will want to come back and work for us, and that'll save our heartaches in the spring when we're scrounging to get enough lifeguards. The other thing you could do is to start to develop some of those lifeguards that you see have great potential to be future leaders. You know, one summer I developed a lead lifeguard program midsummer where we talked about leadership, encouragement, assistance, and development. And the one thing that I had seen is that lifeguards think that head lifeguards and pool managers or whatever, you know, that next level up of leadership you have in your organization, that they think that it's an easier job and that they have to work less because they're not on the lifeguard stand. And so what I wanted to specifically focus on with this program was to show those top level lifeguard performers that it's actually harder to be a manager than it is to be a lifeguard. But it's rewarding and it's a very valuable piece of our operation. And so everything on this slide with the leadership, encouragement, assistance, development, I intentionally made with a focus that they had to work harder, and it was selfless behaviors. And so they are putting their heart and soul into the lifeguard team to help them be better lifeguards. And I'll send this presentation afterwards so you can have it and look back on it. So if you don't write it, don't trying to write something down and you miss it, don't worry, I can send it to you. So now after you take that big sigh of relief in September specifically, I just remember even today, even this, you know, last Monday at 6:30 p.m., I remembered what it felt like to close a pool on Labor Day for the summer season. Even though it had been 7 years since I had done that, I still felt like a sigh of relief for my aquatic colleagues, that it just felt so good to blow that final whistle, get everybody out and think, oh my gosh, I made it again. I am done for the summer. But what I would do is, you know, after taking that couple of weeks to breathe a sigh of relief, is I would really start to work on personnel. What are the personnel issues that I had? How can I address these types of personnel issues, whatever it may have been, whether it was poor lifeguard behaviors, poor food service operation, maybe our trash and cleanliness procedures in the park weren't up to standards, and I would just start to make a list and expand upon that list of all the things that were happening during the summer. You know, budgets, hiring, training, efficiency, maintenance. You know, there's a lot of different things there that you can really start to dive into. A couple of things, you know, specifically like on the efficiency, I have their bundle trainings. What does that mean, George? What does bundle trainings mean? When I first took over the City of Garland aquatics operation in 2008, we had our lifeguard certification classes, and then we required them to come to an orientation to pick up their uniform, and then we required them to come to wave testing at our wave pool, and then we required them to come to a site-specific orientation. And then we had our food service and our admissions folks. They would have to come to a cash handling training. They would have to come to a orientation to pick up their uniforms, and they would also have to come to like a CPR overview. And so we just had like 15 trainings, and I started thinking, this is so inefficient. This is terrible. And so what I did is I combined, we took it from like 8 or 10 different meetings and orientations to 2. And so we would have a lifeguard orientation where they would do their uniforms, they would do the wave testing, they would do everything they needed to do. And then we would have a dry side, you know, guest services and food concessions orientation where they would pick up their uniform and they would go over all their policies and procedures and all that. So we were able to bundle those up instead of having, okay, now that you've been hired, you have to come to this event, and this event. We made it where they just had to come to one event. Now, it was a 4-hour event instead of 3 1.5-hour events, but it was much more efficient for them and for us. The other thing I like to do is look at service issues, and specifically I found through, you know, 7 years of operating an outdoor water park that service issues abound. And typically, those service issues come into one of 4 categories that you see on the screen there. People either complain about their experience, whether they don't like the features, the atmosphere, the cleanliness, the signage, whatever it would be. Consistency is a big one of those. Well, your website said you're open until 6:30, but now you're clearing the pool at 6, right? Policies and procedures. People complain about, you know, weather related closures or the weather policy. They complain about discounts. Well, you have a twilight special after 4 o'clock that gets you $2 off, and I have a $2 off coupon, so I can get in for $4 off. It's like, no, that coupon's not valid with the twilight. Oh, well, it doesn't say that on the coupon. Okay, you got me this time, right? So things like that, policies and procedures people complain about. People complain about food and beverage, whether it's the quality, the price, the timeliness, or the service. And then people complain about your people. They complain about your personnel. And every time I had a complaint about an employee, people always complain that they either weren't knowledgeable, they weren't efficient, or they weren't engaged. And so those were the 3 areas that I wanted to focus on. I want my staff to know what to do, how to do it, and why it matters. And so that goes back to knowledge is what to do. The efficiency is how to do it. And then the engagement piece is why it matters. Why does it matter that I keep the bathroom clean? Why does it matter that I have a proper compact jump when jumping in to rescue a guest? Why does it matter that I have a good tone of voice when I'm talking with an irate guest that's mad at us? So that was eye-opening for me when I started cataloging all of our complaints, and I found out that without fail, all of them fit into one of these 3 categories when they complained about an employee. So I talked there about, policies and procedures development, severe weather policy. What I did was I looked at 15 to 20 other facilities in the Dallas area and figured out what they were doing. And I just combined them and said, you know what, this is what everybody else does. This is what I'm going to do. And that gave me some backing. Another thing to put into your policies and procedures training is the issue with breastfeeding and making sure that your employees know the law, that you have a protocol, that you train your team members. There was just a story yesterday in the news about a water park that, somebody was asked to stop breastfeeding at the facility. And now there was this one that was kind of weird because the staff also said that the mother was vaping and drinking alcohol while she was breastfeeding. And so that was an interesting twist. Oh, but it's something that I think every employee manual needs to have, is just a section on what to do if this happens, because it's not against the law to do it in public, right? And so you need to make sure that your 16 to 20-year-olds are trained on what to properly do. And actually that's nothing. They're not supposed to do anything, right? Because it's not against the law to do it. But the worst thing that can happen is that it gets out that you're not a friendly facility for this, because all of our facilities, cater to young families. We start to look at October. I would start to look at areas of safety and risk management. We would catalog. We were an Ellison Associates facility, so we would catalog all of our rescues. You see that number correct, 296 rescues in like a 90-day season, so it was quite stressful. We found out, that most of our rescues are 6 to 12-year-olds. 2/3 of them were 6 to 12-year-olds. But also this gave us some good data that we rescued 6 41 to 60-year-olds just at the wave pool. And so that gave me some more emphasis on that nothing is going to happen today type philosophy, or nothing is going to happen to that age person today, so I don't need to focus on them. Is that, wow, we rescued essentially somebody in every age group, and so we need to be really aware of every single age group. We would also track the locations of our rescues, and so we would know at the wave pool, pretty much everybody was saved on the slope where we sloped from 3 to 5 feet. But at the outdoor 50-meter pool, we found that most people were saved either along the wall or right at the diving board. We had very few kind of out here in the middle. We found a lot of kids that, maybe they jump in, it's too deep, they can't get back to the wall. But this was really helpful to us because it gave us a great visual, not only to track our safety protocols, but then also to use for training for the next year. We could tell a lifeguard, a new lifeguard candidate who had never seen a lifeguard operation, hey, this is where people are most commonly rescued. We also found that through our research that unconscious incidents happen for essentially one of 3 reasons. Either a lifeguard fails to recognize and act, either there is a lack of adult supervision, or there is a failure to identify facility issues. And so spend your off season working on these different categories. When it's a lack of adult supervision, a lot of these happen with camps. And it's either because the camp is not following a group ratio that you have set forth, or you are not enforcing a group ratio. And so now is a great time to look back at all those camp agreements and make sure that you have a ratio that's in line with industry standards, and also develop some signage for parents to encourage parents to stay with and watch their children. You can't emphasize that enough. When parents are next to their kids at an aquatic facility, drownings do not happen. I could say that with almost 99.999% positivity rate, that if a parent is right next to their kid in an aquatic facility, a drowning is not going to occur. We also started looking at budgets. I said I had 4 facilities, and we would go through and I would meticulously Excel everything and look at our budgets. We would track our annual attendance patterns so we could see, why we were ebbing and flowing in attendance. We would look at the various budgets for all of our facilities, and then I would show this to my aquatics team when they would ask me, why do you spend so much time at Surf and Swim? Well, it has 90% of the budget and 90% of the visits, so yes, I'm going to spend more time at Surf and Swim. We would also look at food concessions and food operations. And, I started looking at our menu and just being like, oh my gosh, we have so many menu items. What am I not selling? And so we would go through and figure out, okay, we didn't sell more than X number of these a day during the summertime. That's coming off the menu, and just to allow us to be more efficient with food ordering and invoice checking and, food waste and all of that. We also tracked our chemical cost over time. And one thing I found is that our budget manager was always walking down the hallway to my office with his budget sheet in hand saying, "You're over on chemicals again." And it's like, I don't know why. Well, then I went back and looked at invoices, and our muriatic acid cost went from $66 a barrel to $99 a barrel over a 3 to 4 year period. Our cal hypo cost skyrocketed per pound. And so those are things to look at. I had never thought of that before. And here I'm taking the heat that I'm over budget and I'm wasting chemicals, when actually, no, this is just general inflation, and you have not given me a general inflation increase in my budget. But if I hadn't sat down the time in the off season to do this, I never would have figured that out. The other thing I did was I looked at our staffing costs, because there was not a summer except for one that I was under budget on staffing. And so I'm sure that you all know that pain. But what I started looking at was to get an average of how many days we were open and how much we were spending. And so, I would look at our 2-week averages. Okay, we had 585 hours, we had 486 hours, we had 530 hours. And I was trying to figure out, it should be the same. Like, we shouldn't have this, we were open the same number of hours. We should not have a variation. So that led me to develop schedule templates for every single area that we had, to try to figure out, well, here it cost us, $4,600 to operate. Here it only cost us $3,800 to operate. Yeah, did we get away with $3,800 or $3,800? Yes. Then why do I need to spend $4,600 to operate? And so that led me to have a better idea of how to staff my team better, because I had to delegate that. And so I wanted to make sure that if I delegated it, that they did it properly. So we're not having $2,200 to $4,600 to $3,800. It was always, $3,500 is what we can spend on staffing. Okay, well, we're to November, so we're getting close to some holiday seasons. But I would develop goals within the month of November. I would not only develop a goal of 0 drownings, getting a platinum award, having exceptional guest service, but I would tie some specific and tangible ways to do that. So we're going to have zero drownings by having proactive management, quality lifeguard training, enforcing our policies, being aware of situations, and then providing a good environment where staff can thrive. And so, and you could even have probably 5 bullet points for each of these 5 bullet points. So it's quite a task to do that. We'd also do, create the next summer's schedule with days, hours, special events, programs. We would iron all of that out in the month of November. That would get us to December. We would start to look at vision and direction. I wanted to make sure my team had what I called motivation in the mundane. And so they're doing this all summer long. They're scanning all summer long. I want them to have motivation in the mundane. And so that's where I came up with the safe, clean, friendly, and fun, and tied some tangible, behaviors and items to each of those. And I posted these in all of our areas of all my facilities. The other thing I would do is I would ask during our preseason interviews for management team, what are the biggest problems within our aquatics division? And I found that, aquatic staff is not serious. There are communication gaps that exist, that staff do not respect authority. And we started to outline what each of these looked like and how we could improve upon them. And so this would give us a vision for what our trainings in May would look like. We would take these top 3 problems and then, work on specifically addressing those. And then also we would create a summer theme. We wanted each summer to be fun and exciting. So we would, do a little summer 2014 type of logo. My good friend Natalie Livingston, if you know her, she is with Aquatics Tribe, I believe, is her group on Facebook. And she came up with, every year she did Waveopoly, she did Welcome to the Fabulous Wave Vegas, she did an Olympic year, she did an Armed Forces year. She has all kinds of resources that she has on the Aquatics Tribe. They also have an Instagram account where she posts lots of good training videos, so give them a look. And so we would start to do the theming, and then we would start to develop the hiring practices. Go ahead and send a Christmas card to all of your team members from the previous summer. Hey, hope you have a great holiday season. We would love to see you back at the end of the year. And then the last one there, I have bake human resources cookies, because human resources are your friends, right? And so you want to make sure that you take good care of them, because they are the one that process 100 to 200 to 300 staff members in the matter of a couple of weeks. So once we got through the holiday season, we have stayed busy. Hopefully you get some time off. But in January, it is hit the ground running. We're going to build an entire marketing plan. We're going to put together our flyers. We did little cool surfboard placards, and then, whether it's flyers, email blast, program guides, a billboard, a mascot, banner, signage, whatever it may be, build that marketing plan. Maybe you have, $1,000 for marketing, or maybe you have $10,000 for marketing. Build a plan to determine the reach and the best use of that money. And that can also be part of, that September to October. If you did any marketing the previous summer, we used to do the little mailers, Valpak or ad pages. And, what I found is that we sent out 100,000 coupons one summer and we got 500 in return. I'd like a better return rate for my $3,000 to $5,000 than that. But if it brought 500 brand new people, that'd be great. If it just brought the same 500 people that always come, they just get in cheaper, it's not really worth it. So, start to analyze that type of thing. And then obviously purchase your supplies and talk to all of the suppliers every season. All of their equipment is just a tad different. The crash bags might look a little different. The rescue tubes might have a little different look and feel. But I would always shop around, whether it was water safety products or the lifeguard store, I would always do my due diligence to make sure I was using tax money wisely for the summer season. Once February came, that's when it was time to go ahead and select my summer management team. A couple of tips there I have for selection, and I learned this the hard way. This is probably summer 2012, 2013, something along those lines. I had some mandatory trainings that I had 60% attendance at. And so the next season, what I did was, it was in the job description that if you are selected for a management team position, you must be available May 14th through the 16th for the management team training. And so that was the first question I would ask. Are you available these days? No, I'm not. Sorry, you're not going to be a manager this summer. And obviously there might have been a little leeway. Somebody had to graduate, right? The one year. So yes, I'll let you. And now you could remote in. It'd be easier. Back, this is 8 years ago. It wasn't necessarily as easy to do that. So that was the big thing that I did. And when I made it mandatory and I gave the dates ahead of the schedule, I gave them the dates in February that were for May, June, July, and August. My attendance at weekly and biweekly meetings went up to 90% from 60% just from one season to the other. But then also remember that great lifeguards don't always make great leaders. My friend Sasha Mateer that runs Deep River Water Park in Crown Point, Indiana, likes to say this, and it's very true. Just because I learned the hard way on this one as well, but just because somebody's a great lifeguard does not mean they make a great leader. And so just a couple of things to keep in mind. Here are some of the questions that I used to ask. What is the most important role of a manager? What do you feel are the most common errors made in the management position? All of these applicants had been lifeguards under pool managers before. And so I wanted to hear from them. What are the errors that the folks that I have trained the previous year, what are the errors that they are still making, so I could focus on that? And then one of the other things, this question right here, the previous summer, I asked it a different way. I asked it, what are you doing when you are on duty? Or how often do you think a lifeguard manager should be on the pool deck? And I would get once an hour, do a walk around, every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes. And what I found is that in asking the question that way, well, how often do you think you should be on the pool deck, that I was letting them set the standard and the expectation. And instead of me setting the standard and the expectation, my standard and expectation was, you should be on the pool deck 48 minutes out of every hour, at least 80% of the time. And so I changed that to, management team members are required to be on deck this amount of time. What are you doing for those 48 minutes? Because I wanted to see if they even had a clue what they should be doing when they are out there. They're mitigating risk management. They're just engaging with guests to see how they're doing. They're being proactive in a number of other ways. So think about the way that you ask the question, and go ahead and set the expectation in the interview of what you would like to do. When you are cleaning a clogged up bathroom, what is going to be a clogged up toilet? What is going to be your attitude for the day, right? Not something like that. Because that's going to happen, right? That's part of their job responsibility. We also have, what you can find these online, I'm sure, but just rate how important these are to you. There's no right or wrong answer, but I definitely I did not want somebody to put I am a leader as the most important thing to them, because I could tell that they're the power trip person, right? I actually wanted to see this. I have high standards regarding work performance and expect the same from those I supervise. If that wasn't in the top three, then that person was a no-go for me, because to me that would trump all of the other ones on this list. In March, we're hiring our team. We're going anywhere and everywhere to find staff members. We are getting on social media. We are visiting every location at least twice to hit different areas. I would put out a little calendar in review for recruitment, where I had 4 to 6 high schools that I would visit every year. And so I would plan those out, high school visits, community college in January, March, we would hit them all again. And then February and April were typically the job fairs. Next year's recruitment starts with this year's retention. So I would retain and engage in the summertime. Send a personalized thank you card. I mentioned the Christmas letter, Christmas card, send a personalized thank you card. And I would say get to know the leaders at the different education venues in your community. I found it really difficult to get into the schools when I would just call and try to figure out who the heck I should talk to. And so the next season, I went to every single school and said, hey, can I talk to the student activities coordinator? And I would sit down and explain to them that I want to provide your students a job that will help them in years to come. And they were all for me coming in and helping them out. So that was my little recruitment plan for the summertime. In April, maintenance and startup, power wash everything, things like this, the little trash juice that has leaked out the summer before, take care of that before somebody walks up to your facility. Teach your lifeguards what a strong vacuum flow looks like, right, on the Harmsco upright. If it's not flowing strong, it's not sucking up dirt on the bottom of the pool. So, cleaning supplies and restroom supplies were always huge. I could tell you numerous dirty bathroom stories that I'm ashamed of from my staff my team not doing what they were supposed to do. There's ways to ensure you never run out of toilet paper. This was one of the ways that we found. We're going to put 4 full rolls of toilet paper in every stall. So then we would train our team well in April as we're getting ready. We're still recruiting in a lot of areas, but then we're also, doing different trainings. What I found with the spring break courses is that those guys forgot everything by May the 20th when we brought them in for orientation. So I stopped doing spring break courses. What I found with the weekend courses, the first and second weekend of April, is that they forgot everything by May 20th when we brought them in for orientation. So I stopped doing that. And so I moved all of my courses to the month of May. And May was hell for me and my team, but it was worth it because we had people that weren't forgetting. We weren't having to reteach. We were just having to teach, and then just keep that up. And so this is what I did. We would have first lifeguard course, hiring fair, second lifeguard course, hiring fair. We double that with a management team training for 3 days. And then we would have orientation for 3 nights in a row. We would have walkthroughs, and we'd have opening day. And so it was a miserable 3 weeks, but we made it work, and we were actually better for it. And then lastly, as we get to the last couple of slides here, we staggered the different type of trainings, to make sure that my management team understood the big picture. They need to know the day-to-day stuff, but they also need to know the big picture items. And then, we would focus on, the different groups in our trainings. In the management team training, I would actually treat this like a mini conference, a mini NRPA, a mini IPRA, a mini Association of Aquatic Professionals. 1 year, I took one of Jim Wheeler's presentations and said, hey, can I present this to my team? And he's like, sure. And so I just presented his presentation that he had already done at Texas Public Pool Council, and I presented it back to my team. And so it's not like I had to develop everything. A lot of this I did end up developing, but I would also borrow from my colleagues in the industry if they had good content. And we would, essentially have a 3-day workshop where I tried to teach them anything and everything. We would focus on the 4 primary characteristics that lifeguards want to see in their pool managers. I know that these are the 4 primary characteristics they want to see because I asked all of my management team applicants, what are the best leadership behaviors that you see, or what qualities do you like to see in a pool manager? And these are the 4 categories that all of the characteristics they gave fit into. And so I would share that. The other thing I would do, and this is the part of me that gets kind of silly, is that I'm always interested in how random places are training their team members. Whether you go to Costco and they have the board of who has scanned the most in the least amount of time, but Panera, I love I love going to Panera when I travel because it's safe, right? It's going to be what it is. It's not like the best food, but it's relatively healthy, and it's always going to be good. But they had this behind the counter one day, so I took a picture of it. It was called the 6 key elements of the perfect breakfast sandwich. And you have to have the properly toasted bread. You have to have crispy bacon. You have to have the salt and the pepper. You have to have the perfect eggs. You have to have, the cashier interaction. But I started thinking, well, what is the Aquatics breakfast sandwich? What is it? It's proper management team training. It is, the way that you communicate with your team. It's having a clean facility. It's using recognition as the salt and pepper, salt and pepper your staff with recognition. Crispy bacon, that's like the perfect rescue, right? The perfect skills. So I don't know, it's an idea I like to throw out there. Find something that works for you, but this is how Panera is modeling their breakfast sandwich to their employees, and so maybe you could do the same with your aquatics operation. And in the last couple of slides here, I would create preseason checklists during the off season, and specifically there, and this happened to me several times, and again, this is bad on me, was I get to opening day. We have party rental starting at 11:30. We get out the tables at 11 o'clock, and they are still dirty from the previous summer because nobody bothered to take the party tables out of the storage room and cleaned them before, so 10 minutes before the party, we're having to scrounge to get these clean. And so I came up with a comprehensive checklist to make sure that we were ready actually 3 days prior before opening day, just to alleviate any type of, bad things that could happen. So nothing is overlooked. And then finally we got to opening day, and it was a big excitement. So the one thing I did want to share just briefly was the manual that I put together. The one-off season, I decided to put together a training manual, and this is what I used I wrote down every question that a team member asked me for an entire summer, and it was quite a long list, as you could imagine. And I put together in an off-season a 74-page manual that talked about how to train lifeguards, how to run in-service, what are things that we should be looking for. We had all of our, risk management protocols in here, but we also had, our zones of protection. We had our daily tasks and responsibilities. We had, again, the good, bad vacuum flow, what that looked like. We had, chemical checks. What about recreational water illnesses? We had how should we clean? I stole this from Six Flags. Don't pass it up, pick it up. I saw that on a news story one time about Six Flags. But anyways, I put together this manual. I can send this to you if you want it. But and it just detailed all of our policies and procedures. But the one thing that it would help with specifically is it would help with training, and then it would help with accountability. And so specifically, one day I get to one of my pools and they have closed it for cloudy water. And I said, oh, when did that happen? Oh, like an hour and a half ago, we had to close it. I said, oh, okay, what were you supposed to do when you closed it for cloudy water? I closed it, I don't know. I said, oh, you have not read page 29 of your management team manual, have you? And then she starts to shrug, no, I haven't. Well, it says, that they have to, if you have to close the pool, in the event of cloudy water, contact the aquatics manager immediately. And so this not only allowed me to train them, but it also allowed me to hold them accountable to the behaviors that I expected of them. So that is, in a nutshell, a year's worth of aquatics work. 3 months of operation equals 1 year's worth of work. If you want the presentation or the manual or anything else, feel free to reach out to me, George Dinas at chh2o.com. And I don't know if there are a couple of questions. I'm happy to answer questions, but I also know you all have other things to get onto as well. So I'm happy to answer a couple of questions at this time, but appreciate being able to chat with you all this morning about this.
George, I'll chime in a little bit here and just kind of fill you in. I mean, it's awesome that you put this together. I know here at Clive, we've utilized this quite a bit, trying to get everyone on the same page from park board to council. And that way we are working more efficiently together and isolating kind of where, where the growth needs to be. And I think using some of this variation of what you created and having that mapping out has been able to help us create new opportunities, new jobs, and really critically look. I really like, though, your 72 page. I was kind of thinking through that. That's good to have because there's no guarantee that you're going to be at the job tomorrow. So whoever is following in your place can easily pick up and go from there. It's a lot of reading, but it's worth it. So.
Yeah, and I was going to mention the one thing that I did specifically, I think it was on, so this daily tasks and responsibilities. Mm-hmm. It was kind of funny. I had to terminate a pool manager midsummer because they weren't doing their job. And so I had to promote a lifeguard to pool manager. And I wasn't actually sure what, every little thing that they had to do during the day. And so I asked her, hey, this is your first day as a pool manager. I'll be here with you at least half the day, but let's write down every single thing that you do. And from opening the safe to get the money out, to putting the backboard out, to checking the chemicals, to cleaning the back, whatever it is, I just want you to write it down. And so that's how this little daily task responsibility list came up, because I was finding stuff wasn't getting done. And so I needed something to completely hold people accountable for that. And then the other thing you'll see in here is that, my team would just, instead of putting the vacuum debris in the trash can that was 5 feet from this, they would just dump it on the grass, right? And they would not, it's like they didn't know how to pick up trash. So I also had that same manager following me around for an entire day as I was manager on duty. And I said, I want you to just take pictures of everything that I do, and then I would incorporate those into the manual. But it definitely helped. It was good to give people a vision for what we were looking at, and putting the pictures in and putting a little blue border. I think I don't have scientific data on this, but I think it increases their willingness to read it probably 100-fold, as opposed, and I also had them bound and spiral bound by like a professional, binder or whatever. And so it ended up being $20 a manual instead of maybe $2 a manual, but that extra $18 I spent on each manual, it showed them, wow, this guy's serious. Like, he took his time to put this together. He is serious. He didn't just, run 20 copies through a printer and staple them and it's all black and white.
George, I do have one more question. Looking kind of at the presentation, we do have some pools in the area that have year-round type of deal. What would be, obviously, it's not going to be tailored fully to this. There's always going to be modifications based on their atmosphere, but what suggestions might you have for if an indoor pool is looking at some strategic planning like this?
Yeah, so I think that what I would do would be to, break it up into quarterly chunks and have a January to March, April to June, and do it that way, because the difference with, the year round is that you always have, new people coming in and old people leaving, new lifeguards coming in, working, and people leaving at any time during the year. It's not just a strict May to September thing. And so I would encourage them to do it into little chunks, but do quarterly trainings instead of, having the trainings at the beginning of the year and then a few throughout the summer, to break it into 3-month segments to help them, figure out the best path forward for training and engagement. But then also making sure that you're doing that salt and pepper, right? It gets indoor pools get a little bit more mundane than outdoor seasonal. And so make sure you have that salt and pepper to the perfect sandwich, throughout the entire year.
Does anyone else have any questions for George before we give him the opportunity to leave our meeting? Not seeing any here. Just appreciation for you to hop on. I do remember sitting in Jeff's, gosh, it was a couple years ago. He came back and quickly went through this presentation. So it was great to see the whole thing all together here. So appreciate your time, appreciate your expertise and sharing that with us here.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for having me, and glad that it's helpful. My goal is to help other people learn from my failures. So if I can put something together and it helps with that, that's a win for me.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Brian, I'll turn it back over to you. Do you know what's on the next bit?
I did, and I apologize because when I was coming in, I was thinking of taxes and not even thinking about the meeting full off the bat. I guess, do we want to cover real quickly before we get into the next presentation about how we deal with like questions, chats again? Do we kind of want to go over that, or do we want to do, how do you want to handle the question?
Someone's got a question or the chat button here, you mean?
Yeah, I forgot to cover that if we need to.
That's okay. So at the bottom, if you guys want to open up your chat button there, if you've got something for the group, go ahead and give it to the group. If you got something for someone individually, you can, private message them as well for clarification. Anything we can get out to everyone, we can save these notes and get those out. Typically is what we do if there's a chain going for a chat, especially if there's a website that we're using, something like that. We will save the notes and get that out in the meeting minute notes here. So, yep.
Thank you. Well, I do see actually Julene is on. Is that correct? I did see you come in early.
That is correct. Thank you. I was able to get on a lot earlier than I thought I was going to.
Well, perfect. And thank you for that email too earlier. I'll get back to you on that one. But I wanted to, I know Kate had set this one up, so I'm not really 100% too sure on the topic, but Kate invited Julene, part of the AOAP, to kind of talk on the presentation. And I guess I'll just turn it over to you.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm the executive director for the Association of Aquatic Professionals, and we are a nonprofit membership association that specializes in drowning prevention education and education of any type of aquatic, anyone that's involved in aquatics. We have been around since 2011, and we basically, a group of aquatic professionals put together a group for aquatic professionals. And that's one of the biggest things that we try to do as an association is really promote anything and everything that could benefit aquatic professionals. So we try to be that one-stop shop. And I don't know if we have a website, and I'll be sharing that a little bit. I was asked today to talk about our aquatic professional designation that we have. So I'll be going over that, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to share a website page, Kelly.
I just made you a co-host, so you should have that ability here.
Okay, so I'll just kind of finish going over a little bit about our association. We do, again, I said we try to be that one-stop shop. So if you as an aquatic professional have a question, I get emails and phone calls all the time. And if I can't provide the answer, our goal is to try and point you in the right direction, whether it could be policies and procedures, it could be the Model Aquatic Health Code, it could be standards in the industry, it could be something you're dealing with within your organization where you need some assistance. So we really try to help people out in those aspects. We do have a free weekly newsletter, so hopefully some of you get that, but our website is www.aquaticpros.org, and you can sign up for it. It's free. We provide tons of information. Obviously, we do have memberships. For an individual, it's $40 a year, and that gives you access to our members only portion of the website. It gives you, which we do in-service trainings, we do monthly articles. There's so many different things. We do discounts on webinars. We do discounts on our conference that we have every year in February. We do, we give away life jacket and swim lesson grants. So we really try to provide those types of things. We also have a free drowning prevention education program called Respect. It's going through a revision right now, but it's free. You download it off the website. It's got PowerPoint presentations, videos, PSAs. So basically, and instructor guides. So basically anything and everything you need if you're looking for it. We have communities that use that. We have fire departments that have used that all over the US and internationally. So it's kind of nice to have those type of things. But the reason I was asked, I guess, to speak today was on our aquatic professional designation, and it's the AQP, if everybody has heard about that or not. It's a designation for aquatic professionals that kind of sets you apart from others in the field. It was a process. We had a committee put together and worked with focus groups for over 2.5 years to develop it. And lately, over this last year, we've really been able to streamline it. It's a designation now that we got certified by the Model Aquatic Health Code for it. So we're very excited about that. We have hundreds of people right now that are working towards it, and we have a couple hundred that have already obtained it. It's a 2-year designation, and once you get it, there is a fee to apply, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but once you have it, to reapply, there's no fee at all. So it's just something that you have to have continuing education and stuff. So I'm going to try and do this and bring up, I'm going to try and share my screen here. I'm going to see how this works. And you can let me know if this is going to work. Can everybody see a screen now that's showing AQP and everything? Okay. We do a lot of partnerships and collaborations, and that's a big part of the Association of Aquatic Professionals, as we try to work with any and all aquatic groups, drowning prevention education groups. We promote everything. It doesn't have to be ours. You know, we don't take ownership of stuff. We really just want people to get out there and get educated to the best of their abilities. So if whether it's and you'll see on here, we set up a partnership with Splash EDU to have our AQP platform and our designation all automated. So it made it really, really easy and much more streamlined in order to apply for it and do that. But we promote, you know, whether it's Aquatech, CPO, AFO, PPM Plus, any of the lifeguard training programs, water safety programs. We aren't here to just promote one or the other. We try to promote everyone. And again, this came up with a great partnership for us because on Splash EDU right now, if you go to www.splash-edu.org, you can click on the AQP designation. And once you click on that, it talks about what the program is and how it all works. So if you go to AQP, you can register for it, but I want to kind of talk about what it means and what it is. Why we did this was because we were approached by so many people saying, you know, people don't look at us as professionals. And I can really relate to that because I was an aquatic professional all my life. I was an aquatics director. You know, we all know what a tough job that is and how important of a job that is. And when I got married and my husband was a firefighter paramedic, we'd be places and people would say, you know, what do you do? And he'd be like, oh, I'm a firefighter paramedic. And everybody was like, oh, that's such an important job. And I'd say I was an aquatics director. And it was like, huh, what do you do? Play in the water all day? You know, we hear all those things. So it wasn't like we were looked at professionals. And part of my goal throughout my career, and I do a presentation on, you know, lifeguard professionalism and how we are looked at as lifeguards and how we can change that attitude of the public that we are professionals. And that was one of those goals that I had. And this kind of came up from that. But this kind of AQP sets you apart and brings you into an exclusive network. We talk about why you can do this. And, you know, we see a lot of people now getting it. They put the AQP after their signature lines. You can earn continuing education units towards it. It's got your commitment to aquatic education. You kind of set yourself apart and you kind of just join a group of outstanding designated aquatic professionals who share your passion. And one thing we know about aquatics professionals is that we are all very passionate about what we do. You know, it's not a boring job. We have to be ready to relate in emergencies and react in emergencies. So that's really kind of part of it. It's that designation that you can put after your signature line to really set you apart. And we're actually now seeing some groups and some job postings that were coming up that are requiring AQP or requiring it within a year to obtain your AQP. So we are also excited because I had mentioned we just got certified by the Model Aquatic Health Code. We're Model Aquatic Health Code compliant, which means we meet all of their strict requirements and qualifications in order to do that. It was quite a lengthy process, but we're excited to do that. And it kind of, we provide some information on that page of background on why people obtain their AQP and why it was important to them. And I don't have to read those. You can kind of go back and look at these things, but how do you earn it? There's a basic process that you go through. And what's nice about this new platform that we have is it's really easy to explain it because there's some prerequisites that you need, and then there's some core content, and then there's electives. So the prerequisites, you have to be a member of AOAP because it's a member benefit again. A minimum of 2 years full-time or 4 years part-time aquatic work experience. A current pool operator certification. Again, it doesn't matter from where. Current basic first aid and CPR AED certification. Current lifeguard instructor certification and or swim instructor trainer certification. And then you sign off on a safety-oriented, excellence-driven commitment statement that you are committed to aquatics and the safety of individuals. And then we have some core content. Now, the only thing of all this content that is required to obtain from the Association of Aquatic Professionals are to take 4 core educational sessions. You can do that either at the AOAP conference in February. We do that annually, and we pick out certain ones that will meet those core requirements. Or within this platform, we have a risk management core, program staff training core, a drowning prevention core, and a leadership executive development core session. So they're webinars, you can take them as well. Now those are right within the platform, and I'll point those out once we get through this. And then you have to have some continuing education CEUs. You can go back 5 years for this. You need 0.2 CEUs or 2 hours in risk management, 2 hours in programming staff training, 2 hours in drowning prevention, and 2 hours in leadership executive development, which are from those core topics that we chose from that we felt were the most important topic areas that all aquatic professionals should have. And then 1.8 CEUs in basically any type of an elective that you could have from any of those areas, plus some additional ones. Now, if you have a degree, any type of a bachelor's degree, you're done with the requirements, and then you take a final exam. If you don't have 120 credits, but you have 60 credits minimally, you just have to get 2 0.0 CEUs or 20 hours additional. If you have no college credits at all, then you have to have 40 additional hours. And then you take the final exam. So once you all do that and you pass the exam, you actually get a certificate at that point. It's good for 2 years. Again, when you're up for your renewal, there's no cost. You just go on and you reapply. We've tweaked this a little bit as we started out to begin with. As people have done it, they gave us great suggestions to go through, so we tweak things every once in a while. But we have lots of different information that's on there. And one of the biggest things is we go through questions that people have asked. You know, what is the process? How does the designation last? What are the fees? The fees to apply for the AQP are $125. And then again, that's your initial designation, but then there's no fee to reapply afterwards. So it's basically just to cover our cost of this platform and keeping track of it all. And you also get CEUs for any webinar that you do take. It'll talk about what first aid, CPR, AED courses are required. You just click on it. And there's some additional ones that are added all the time. And then if somebody's got a question, they can get in touch and say, oh, does this, you know, qualify or not? And I can let them know as well. But you just click on it. Talks about the elective categories. So basically those elective categories could be in marketing, fundraising, the core requirements, development, aquatic sports, coaching, officiating, aquatic operations, budgeting, financial management, you know, sports, kayaking, canoeing, hazardous materials, teaching lifeguard, CPR, swim instructor courses, but you can only use up to 5 hours or 0.5 CEUs, advanced medical training, publishing about aquatic topics, presenting. So we pretty much, anything within those categories fits the bill for that. And then you submit your application and take a final exam. There's no cost for renewal. There is a requirement that you'll have to, your application, it's those 4 core requirements, and they change every year or two, along with those basic 0.2 in each one of the core areas. So that kind of explains the whole process. But if you actually go into, we provide enough webinars so you could get it if you don't have any other educational experience. Most everybody does. There are some free webinars on the Splash EDU platform that will qualify for it. But if it's a core requirement, you'll see core requirement. So this is a core requirement for staff training and programming. It says $30, but that's a non-member rate. If you're a member of AOAP, it's $20 to take those. Again, if you go to the AOAP conference, you can do those, but we have tons of different topics. And again, these are webinars anybody could take. You get CEUs for them. So if you need CEUs to renew your AFO certification or your CPRP or your SPRE or whatever it may be, our CEUs are good for those types of things as well. But it's anywhere from developing a friends group, 7 key fiberglass failures to watch out for, grant writing, contagion, reality check, emergency debriefing, bringing direction to the interview process, sponsorships, lifeguard training activities, autism, respected as a supervisor. So we have about 20 different webinars that you can take, and they're all different topics again. And if it's a core, again, it has that core right by it, and it says what it's for. But those are types of webinars. And again, even if you're not going for your AQP, a lot of people are looking for webinars to be able to take and get CEUs. So this provides a lot of those opportunities. And I am going to try and go back here to all courses as well. On here, there's also artistic swimming. They've got some water safety training, the AQP, but there's tons of different types of training that you can take that are offered through the Splash EDU. And then they also have some free courses and webinars that I like to promote that are on here as well. Obviously, we're all dealing with the COVID-19, so they have a presentation on that, predicting the unpredictable, aquatic operation, the gang's all here, virtual in-services, changing the color of aquatics. So there's some free ones that I like to point out to everybody. So if you're looking for additional educational opportunities, and I kind of chuckle because I know we're probably, a lot of us are inundated with Zoom meetings, and they're spectacular and wonderful, and we're glad we can do them now. But if you're like me, I've got about 12, 13 every week, and it's getting to be a little bit more difficult to keep track of all of them. But there's just so many different opportunities to get some additional educational offerings in it. And if you have some time on your hands, it's a great way to do it. And I don't know, Kelly, I didn't know how much time I had, or I just wanted to do I was asked to do a quick review, and I don't know if anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask. If you can open that up, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. No constraint on your time here. So does anyone have any questions about this?
And kind of just to, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we've got the website to go to as well. Is it okay when we put out the meeting minutes that we get your contact information out there? So if someone just wants to privately message you, call you, that we can do that?
Absolutely. And one really nice thing about this is you can apply and you can start working on it. It doesn't have to be something that has to be done all at once. Or you can take a whole bunch of the webinars here and there, get all of your other stuff together. And that's what we see people doing. And it's really nice because when you go on here for the AQP and you sign up for it and register for it, you get a dashboard. And then what happens on your dashboard is that you upload, once you complete something, you upload it. And then I get an email, and if it meets the qualifications, I approve it, and you just keep going on and you go through the process. And a lot of people have really liked that, because in the past, everybody had to have everything all at once. And then they applied. This, they can do it as they go, and it's worked out really well. Some questions people have, you know, if you can only use something once. So if there's a requirement for a pool operator course, you use that, you upload that for the prerequisite. You can't use that again towards your CEUs or electives because it's one of those requirements. But a lot of people have, you know, if you guys have gone to your state conferences in the past 5 years, or your local trainings or sectional trainings, and you get a print up. Now, some people will say, you know, I didn't get CEUs for it, but I participated. I've got a participation certificate, and this is what it all includes. I ask people to send that to me ahead of time, and then I can see if we can approve it and fit it in there. But we've been able to work with people really well, and we've got so many people that are really excited about it, and it's just been, I think, a really great thing for the aquatic profession, and we're just getting really positive feedback.
I'm looking at a printout because I went on NRPA's site a while ago, but I'm showing that Kate, Brian, and Austin all have the certification. Am I right on that for Brian and Austin, who are on?
For AQP?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a member, but I don't think I got certified.
Okay, so you're just with AFO. That's what you're.
Right.
Okay.
I'm in the same boat with Brian.
Okay.
And I can say that Kate is in the process of working towards hers right now.
Okay, great.
And then there may be a few others, but based on those, because again, we've got hundreds of people now that have started the process and are going through it. So we're kind of, as they're coming in with this new process, it seems to be working out a lot better for them. But again, they can work at their own pace on it as well.
Great. Any other questions? Super. Well, we appreciate the time. Like I said, we'll get contact information out there. So if someone thinks of something later or something comes up in discussion through the remainder of our meeting, we can get in touch with you. But really appreciate your time coming on here and explaining this to us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I will stop sharing my screen so you can have it back. You guys have a great day. And if you need anything, please let me know.
Super. Thanks. All right, Brian, do you want me to go into updates with IPRA, or what do we got next here?
Yeah, I'd say let's do the updates from IPRA, and then we can take kind of the last part and see where that goes. Because this is what, slated at 2, I believe. What's the end time? Or did I misunderstand that?
What time did you say?
What was it, 2 o'clock that we're done?
No, we're
Oh,
going
I was like, I'm in a different meeting.
before 2 o'clock.
Yeah, I was like, no, I don't want. Okay, I was like,
No,
let's
no.
just go with the updates and we'll
Yep.
go from there.
So, all right. So obviously, if you've been living under a rock, you don't know about the fall workshop that was changed to, we've gone to 3 virtual mini workshops. Our first one is on Tuesday. Deadline was set for yesterday to register. We will still take your registrations. We're just trying to get information out to you guys with Zoom login and all of that. So that does take place on Tuesday. If you are pre-registered, please look for that information. Steve and I are meeting at 1. So if you guys are all meeting till 2, I'm not going to be here. So we're going to meet at 1, finalize all that, and hopefully have that email out to all the registrants by 2 o'clock. And again, if you're not on, you hear a coworker, we're not going to turn you away. We just needed to set a deadline to try and get the mass number out there and get stuff figured out on our end here. So right now it looks like we're a little over 40 registrations that'll be joining us on Monday. So we hope that number increases, but we're going to take what we can get right now here. So all the CEU workshops and CPO dates have been advertised or out there on the website live for registration, pretty much following the same exact calendar that we have the last number of years there. So go ahead and get on that. We are planning to meet in person. We are following all COVID guidelines at our locations there. So that is one thing. We may be offering some online continuing ed stuff, but right now we're moving ahead with the in-person. It has been working well, but just as stuff, possibly changes or situations arise, we'll let you know if any of that stuff is going online here. As far as CEUs for today's speaker here, I've got folks highlighted here that I know that have their CPRP. The only one I don't know who is behind Fort Dodge Park and Rec. So if you guys are CPRP, just message me. That lets me know who you guys are. Everyone else has their name, so that I can get a CEU form out to you for those certifications there. Right now with the Iowa Park and Rec is not going to be hosting any in-person events. So all the Aquatic Committee folks, we're going to continue to meet online through December. We have not scheduled any of our women in leadership. We were to be offering a brand new directors forum this fall. We also had in the works the certified playground and safety. We had an ADA presentation. We did have, what were some of my other ones here that I've got? Actually, AFO class was one of them. And then none of the YPN, park interest, rec interest, and regional rendezvous. So we'll take a look at that on down the road here to see. We just know there's a lot of travel restrictions and that some places still aren't even letting outside folks into their facilities. So we're just trying to be cognizant. We know everyone's super anxious to get together. We are too. And on that same line here, conference planning, we have started the conference planning, or what some people refer to as spring, that is slated for the last week in March through Thursday, April 1st in Sioux City. We have a planning meeting on the 21st, so just about 10 days away. At this point, we are still planning for in-person. We truly hope we can have it in person, but we know that we have to, in the back of our mind, be potentially thinking about online, should the situation not be any better. But just to let you guys know, we are planning in person at this time. And thank you, Tanner. I got that there, Fort Dodge. I would say the only other thing I have is I'd like to, per request, get out that wage and fee survey so that we can update that for folks out here. I was trying to read a little bit of the chat during her stuff there. We do have the population already in the survey. And I thought we had indoor-outdoor pool, but I can look at that. But we can certainly add gallonage of the pool and potentially the average 3-month chemical costs. I would say the only bad thing about adding a chemical cost and stuff like that is every single person uses different chemicals from a different company, and all of that. So some of this just starts to get so overwhelming, and we're not comparing apples to apples is my only thing. We've had some really great requests of some other stuff too, but in order for a quick glance, some of it's just really hard to put in there. I've jotted it down here so that we can continue to look at that. What's feedback on others here? What are you guys thinking about some of the additional categories or anything else? Yes, Jenny.
The only thing I was thinking with chemicals, you know, because the 3-month chemical cost, yeah, it's kind of difficult depending upon if you're on tablet or liquid or whatever.
Yeah.
But as to who uses what. So what pools use liquid versus tablet chlorine or CO2 versus acid? Maybe that instead of the cost, because then we could contact those people if we had
yes.
questions.
Okay. Do we need to know what vendor you are going through? Is that helpful? Because I'm sure there's a cost difference between vendors. I'm not trying to put anything extra on there. I'm just, is someone going to turn around and ask that as soon as we get this survey out there?
Well, Kelly, I can fill you in a little bit with that proposed maintenance survey that I was creating. Right now, it's literally at 10 pages because, again, it gets so much, and we're trying to minimize it as a snapshot. But one of the questions does have, it's very generic, where it's like, what company do you order chemicals from? And if they want to know more, then they have the contact information. We're trying to make it where you want to know it more, you contact them. I know the other thing that was coming up quite a bit is from my studies of looking at maintenance and all that, like, are you using frequency valves? What type of what type of controller are you using? So it does have those questions, but if we're looking at data, like really, really detail, you won't be able to get that. You'll have to contact them directly.
And I'm just going to say that I got a hard enough time with our communities filling out the wage and fee survey.
Right.
A 10-page document sounds great and is going to be great reference for people that, you know, do fill it out. I'm just going to say we're probably going to get a lot of people that, you know, unfortunately. So get that snapshot of information, I would say, and then just have that, all right, here's my contact information. Mm-hmm. So it is super important stuff. I don't know why we struggle with people filling this out. Everyone wants this, and then no one wants to fill it out. So can't have it both ways, people. So we send you something, you know, hopefully you can kind of fill it out in your, I can't say everyone has downtime because it's so crazy right now, but when we get that sent out to you, So Brian, sounds like you and I should touch base before I add too many things to this. I'm not opposed to adding some of these just to the regular wage and fee, so that helps as a quick snapshot to for some folks here, but we'll communicate on that. We'll getting that out. Please know that the information that we are gathering from our members is something that is not out there for the general public to share. We're really trying to keep stuff that you guys have paid your membership fee, you guys are attending the meetings, you're listening, and this is not for someone just to receive a piece of paper and not attend. So we did have a group that just wanted it the other day. They've never, ever been a member with us. And unfortunately, that's, you know, we're just not going to give away all of our information. So super inexpensive to join IPRA, and there's different options. If you're not full-time in Park and Rec, we've got some advocate options. So if you know of someone out there that really would like some of this information, we really truly want them to be a member. Our meetings are open to anyone out there, just because we want safe and healthy swimming across the state. But some of this information that we're gathering and taking our time to do, it is just going to be for our members here. So just know that when someone is calling you up asking, feel free to give your own information. That's what we've, you know, if you've got a contact that's not an IPRA member, someone across state lines, that's awesome. Share your information, but just please don't share all of our stuff with them. What else from you guys? Looks like everyone's super excited to be sitting in front of a computer for 3 hours next Tuesday for continuing ed.
Okay, so I know this is probably really, really early to be even thinking about this, but as far as coming spring and managers workshop and all of those things, are we going to be doing a committee again for the pool managers workshop, and should we be thinking about that now?
I would say plan on that now, thinking about it. You know, our date for when Steve and I were talking about all this stuff in the summer was circle back around September 1 and talk about it. Well, September 1 came around, we circled around and said, all right, nothing in session through December. But, you know, as we get closer to December, we'll certainly be, you know, looking at those again. So I would say if there's a few people that were on that prior committee that want to start, you know, hey, I'll be on it. You don't have to put a lot of thought into anything right now, but absolutely, as soon as we can get back together, we want to be back together with you guys. See, it's less than a year away, so it's not that early. What other stuff does anyone have that you guys want to talk about here?
As we talk about IPRA updates, I just noticed the other day, it's been a while, but I realized NRPA also rolled out their aquatic school online learning too. So they have, it's pretty pricey, but they have it all broken down for Park and Rec, national standard, whatever that case may be, for maintenance, financials, all that. So I think they rolled that out pre-COVID, I believe, or when COVID was, I don't know. I just noticed that the other day.
Okay.
Is there a chance that NRPA would allow us to do an AFO class virtual?
No,
Or do they
we have
only
been
require
denied. We had that one scheduled for October 6th, 7th, and we actually had a good handful of people sign up for it. And they said, not right now. I want to say that was through December was their date too. So as soon as we can get that, we definitely want to offer that. So we're working closely with them. Great question. Thanks.
This is kind of off in left field, but does anybody off the top of their head know what kind of disinfectant they are using to disinfect touch points, et cetera, between usage? I think that's what CDC says. Does anybody know offhand what they're using, or are they simply using a bleach water mix? Our issue is we're coming up with some handy dandy, really good spray stuff, but it requires rubber gloves, mask, and goggles. So anybody have any thoughts at all?
Carolyn, we're using Hycon 250.
Who? Say that again.
Hycon, HI-CON 256.
56. And do your staff have to wear goggles?
No. We have a dispenser, so the hose actually hooks up to it, and you so it has a dispenser to pre-dilute it in straight into your bottle for you.
Oh, and you guys use that like for spraying on touch points and doorknobs, et cetera, et cetera?
We spray everything.
That's what we're planning on doing in the next week.
And we have a backpack sprayer that is amazing.
Okay.
So Carolyn, speaking of that, we just got information from Dave Peters regarding, no, if you'll give me just 1 second. He just sent it to us yesterday about making your own disinfectant. It's called Hypogen, and that it's a disinfectant that kills the germs within under a minute. And it's a sanitizing system that they're like selling or something. So I can forward you this email that he sent. It has a brochure and everything for a disinfecting solution that works in backpacks and spray bottles and everything.
Yeah, if you think about it, if you could send it on that, that'd be great. I'm just, I've got a couple of different ones, but they're all saying that everybody needs to be in rubber gloves and masks, which I have no problem with masks, but
Right.
then to tell someone they have to climb out of a lifeguard chair, run over, put on gloves, mask, and goggles, spray down these 4 bins and these 4 benches, and then run and jump back into the chair. I find that something that they're probably not gonna do.
Right. During the summer when we were disinfecting outside at our high touch points, I had purchased something off of Amazon called Kills, and it's a hospital grade disinfectant, and that's what we were using. I can send you that as well because it's a diluted thing in a bottle that you literally just put the packet in there and put the water in it and agitate it, which it's a high bleach concentration. But that's what we were using and we didn't have a problem with it.
Ooh, okay, I can look into that too. Thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate the input.
Hey, Carolyn. All we ever used was the local winery up there gave us straight alcohol almost. It was like 80% proof alcohol, and that's all we used for spraying.
Now,
That's what
did you spray that or drink that?
Yeah, you know me.
I mean, sorry.
But that's all we did, and that's all we've had all summer. Is we just sprayed down things. We clean our decks like we normally do, our locker rooms like we normally did, but we would spray the chairs and the doorknobs and stuff like that with straight. I think it was 8% alcohol. I can't remember what it was, but it dried quickly. We didn't have a problem. We didn't require staff to wear masks or gloves.
Okay.
So, I mean, literally, it dried on. You spray it on the doorknob, it can be dry before you walked away. So.
Cool, thank you.
If you want one more, Carolyn, to here at Park and Rec, we use the company is called Betco, and it's called Pine Quat. That's what we've been using at our childcare and in the arena. And then I was first using this when we were thinking about opening our pool and stuff, and works great. Staff don't have to wear gloves or mask, and yeah, it kills it right away. Our janitor here at the office recommended it, and it's been working great for us, and it dries really quickly too.
So it's pine as in pine tree, pine quat?
Yeah, I don't know if you can read it. Pine Quat.
Pine quat. Yeah, we've got a quat thing going, and I looked on the SDS, and that's where I found the gloves, mask, and goggles, which is, those staff are not going to do that because I'm pretty sure I would not do that.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you. Appreciate it, everybody.
Anything else from anyone? Brian, anything left on your end?
Well, I was going to say, I guess that segues into just kind of catching up right now, seeing how things are, checking in if anyone wants to share. I know as Kate and I continue to look at, and Kelly and all the people involved, what the meetings will look like. I want to kind of just approach this one organically and see what comes out and just kind of take away some major touch points. So as we look in the future, we're more isolated than all over. So I guess let's just start off. Somebody wants to share how are things going? Let's go there. And I mean, how are your operations going? What have you learned? What have you not learned? I mean, not learned, sorry. What have you learned and what has been successful? There we go. I'll start off. Or for Dodge, you can go.
I was going to say, this is a huge transition for me. I mean, this was my first full year under Ryan Mail and Hannah Engstrom. Kind of let me have the ropes to the facility. Ran into a ton of problems, and ironically it was during COVID, but being my first year, and like I said, fresh out of college, it was very eye-opening, and I probably learned a million things every day. It was not uncommon for me to be there at 11 o'clock at night and waking up at 5 a.m. to do something. Definitely realize the value of my employees and upper management as well, and to figure out what are like smarter and like safer ways for to operate the facility and an instance and all that. So I guess like, I would say I'm probably the only rookie one here, but it was definitely going next year is going to be a lot different, knowing like, hey, expectations are definitely a little bit higher on my end, just because now I have a really good grasp of like what went well, and like what George was talking about, having those lists of things of what you can improve on during the year is definitely going to help. But yeah, it was it was eye opening. That's for dang sure.
Well, welcome aboard, Tanner. I hope you have a slash of a time in aquatics.
Oh, I know we were car wash one of our pools yesterday, and I was drenched from one, the rain, but two, just the backflash of off the walls. You're just like, yep, we're going home with wet shoes.
I do have an open-ended question because we are already looking. We started 2021 already in 3 different plans. The question I kind of have, so we can kind of isolate it by December. If we did open swim during COVID, for those facilities that did open swim, how did that go? And I'm gonna ask this will be kind of a, maybe hopefully not a can of worms. How did you determine your number? And here is the reason I'm asking this, where some facilities determine their number based on how many people they can get safely in their storm shelter versus how many on the facility. So I'm just kind of curious to hear a little bit more about those pools that did open and whatever you want to share with that.
Hey, Brian, we opened up this summer, and we just talked in general and came up with 250 was our capacity. There's no way we could have fit all them people in the bathhouse if a storm came or anything like that, but it was just kind of based on our average daily total, and thought that was a number that we could handle with the number of guards we had. It went okay. We only hit capacity one day out of all summer, even with that heat wave in there. So people were just on their own not coming, but it did find out we had a lot of out-of-town people. I had people from Davenport, Quad Cities area, Cedar Rapids, all of them came in, which proposed a whole new problem for us because they weren't used to our facility, our rules, and things like that. We sprayed the locker rooms every shift change, which is every 20 minutes. We didn't require masks. We didn't have a problem with that. Patrons kind of did on their own. And I don't remember any scares or anybody complaining about anything all summer long until the last week when I went on self-quarantine for my wife's false positive, and then hell broke loose in the staff because they thought the world was going to end. But up till that, they did fine, and we didn't have any problem with patrons or staff. Now, I won't say they did very good in social distancing.
Yeah.
Terrible, but they did pretty good on the cleaning part.
Nice. Awesome.
In the same boat with them. We had a great summer. Learned a lot. It was my first summer with Des Moines. I definitely have a ton of questions for you guys. I'm going to wait a little bit until after my regrouping of this season for implementations for next season. But we had no COVID cases on staff. We had a couple people that got put out just because of our policy of having somewhat symptoms that may not have been COVID. So all of our staff was intact. We made it till when we were supposed to. The storm did mess us up a little bit as far as power outages and getting those back up and going and whatnot. We did have one at the beginning of the year, a positive COVID. We closed for a day. It was a swim team kid, so they weren't in the locker room. They didn't do any of that stuff. So But overall, lots of good learning. Again, if we're in this situation for this upcoming year, I'm a little bit more confident because we know how things gone, and we have kind of jumped through some hurdles on same kind of things, cleaning procedures. We added that to the rotation, so we weren't taken away from their break and all that fun stuff, or their downtime, excuse me. And it really went as smooth as it could have gone, except for I got a little carried away, and then I got COVID at the end after we closed. So got a little cocky, and karma got me.
Yeah, I was kind of in the same boat as some of these other people. It's also my first year with the city of Adel, and I'm right out of college. So like Tanner, lots of learning experience, especially during COVID. And we got glass in our pool this summer. So learned about that, and battling a terrible pool leak, and a city that is currently building a new water plant because we can't support our water needs now, and just all sorts of things. That was all very good learning experiences. We were at, I guess, 50% capacity, so at 253. We kind of looked at like this 6 foot, social distancing, and that number was actually higher than 253. But we just decided with the 50%, definitely could not fit everybody in the bathhouse or anything like that. If we needed to, there was cleaning we did it every hour on the hour, wiping down any touch points. We did do some pre-registration, that way they could kind of guarantee their spot, but also allowed some walk-ups. Also had a lot of out-of-towners. So, yeah.
To literally bounce right off of that with regards to leaks and things go wrong, it just was the perfect year. We had our lazy river pipe literally explode in the maintenance room. Lori Branderhorst and I were there trying to get our filter up and going, and we pressed start after one big chunk, and pipe blew off and water went everywhere. It was like a fire hose. It was pretty intense. We lost a lot of documents. So our pool inspection, we had to note that, but for the first time, and I think Fort Dodge history, we passed with no flags or anything. So that was a huge win on my end. But then, of course, a week later, our soft start to our lap pool filter took a crap, and then no businesses whatsoever in the United States made that unique piece. So we had to get it shipped from the Dominican Republic, and got it up and running about a week ago. And then now we're just draining our lagoon, and it just proved again, kind of a learning moment, is you definitely need chemicals or your water turns into a lagoon really quick. With regards to kind of the operation sides of everything, is we had one of our lifeguards shifts be, or a cashier shift be, a designated kind of like cleaner. We touched or cleaned the hot spots, so like rails, ladders, and all that every 30 minutes. Our capacity numbers, we did it off of our square footage of our pools, and kind of manipulated a number based off of that. So we definitely were not even at 50%. I would probably say maybe like a quarter. But because our pools kept breaking and something went wrong, we kind of had to eliminate those numbers down I'd probably say each month. But yeah, I mean, overall, there just wasn't a lot of attendance in general. We kind of fly or swim at your own risk in this sense. But overall, I said we had a few cases, so that was a good time dealing with that, but nothing something we couldn't control.
So Brian, I had gotten something from our inspector regarding pool capacity during COVID, and I'm going to try and find it and send it to you because it was, he had a really good way to figure it out. and what's the best for capacity for an indoor pool or an outdoor pool. So I don't know if that might help you.
I'll be curious to take a look at it, just because I know our Department of Health did a posting on Patreon calculation too. But again, I don't want to open this can of worms. It says at the bottom, this number does not count for social distancing. So I'll be curious to see what that is and just kind of regurgitate it a little bit. Because I did hear, and again, try not to go down this path too much, but I did hear some pool inspectors were doing things differently, and it was a little confusing. And I was like, you know what? I know you're upset, but let's just go with it this summer. We'll figure it out later. So.
So are most people basing their maximums on the numbers they can safely fit into a bathhouse, or on the deck, or just whatever they think would work in terms of the social distancing in the water?
I'll take Newton Park and Rec for an example, something local. Granted, they're not too big of a city, but basically what they did, and I'll have to think about the other pools outside of Iowa, but for them, they did look at how can I socially distance everyone in the storm shelter. So if El Derecho came through and you got to get everyone through, obviously people don't have time to walk out and go home. And how they did it, I believe, was they did a reservation of 60 people for an hour. They closed for like a short amount of time for cleaning, then did another 60 people. So they broke it up through the day, and they still, I haven't followed up with them. It's been, but as far as I know, it was healthy for them. Yeah, they lost money, but it still got people through the door in a safe manner. So I think Kent, Illinois, their pool did the same thing, but don't quote me on that one. So. But I know, like, our maximum, if we cut half, it'd be like 450, 500. I can't get everyone in one room safely. I can't even get 100 people in one of the locker rooms. So
You got to think about, Brian, I mean, if the weather is that questionable, and that, I mean, Yale Director is different, but I actually watched that from Sioux City coming, so I knew it was coming. But if the weather's that bad, you're not going to have that number of people there either.
No.
And you can always announce, hey, we got weather coming, make your way. But I did find out we had two different patrons at our pool. The ones that kept by themselves and out on the deck, and they did a pretty good job on their own, just separating. In the water, you couldn't tell, and there was no enforcement. I didn't have my staff enforce it, anything like that. Then we had patrons that really didn't care. They came in as a group of 15 people, and they were so close together they could probably smell each other's armpits. I mean, and they didn't care. Mm-hmm. But I think you're going to beat yourself up if you sit there and really try to categorize everyone into one. Just do what's safe for your staff and what's reasonable, safe for the public.
Right. We're kind of looking at more not just in terms of the safety aspect of it, but also contact tracing as well. We're trying to still right now avoid random people coming in. They have to check in. So if someone tests positive, then we can contact them personally and all that. So yeah, I'm not stressing out about it, but there's multiple options on the table right now.
See that from my instructions from the city, we didn't even use the word contact tracing here. I didn't have to register anybody. You paid money, come in, swim, you're out and gone. Hmm. That's a whole different HR issue that I have that you guys obviously don't have, but we were never, even our indoor pool for lap swim and open swim and a little bit of swim lessons we tried, we did not have sign in to the rec center. We did not have sign out, anything like that.
I guess any other feedback on the summer? Swim lessons. Anyone? How did the swim lesson stuff go so far? Or how is it going currently if you are doing lessons right now?
I'll touch there. We offered first session of swim lessons, and we did reduced numbers in the classes. The lower classes, we had parents in the water with them, and we offered, I think it was like 15 classes. We had 4 go, and of those 4 classes, they were not full. Parents that did do that enjoyed it. I think they liked it. It seemed to do pretty good. Then we offered actual normal lessons without parents, but very reduced numbers. Same aspect. I think we offered 20 classes and we had 2 or 3 go. So got told to offer them. We did not see a jump or an increase or a big demand for that. And we were the only ones in the 3-city area here for that. So maybe it was too soon. As far as fall goes, I don't have my indoor pool open right now because it's currently drained for a pipe busted. So I can't tell you what's going on for a fall lesson. So.
Aaron, the one year you'd have all your staff that would not be going to Iowa football games.
Okay.
I'll chime in about swim lessons here. So we wanted to, put safety of our swim lesson students as well as our instructors. So we required, we went down to 1 instructor to a 1-to-5 ratio with regards to instructor to students, and required face masks for our instructors. But instead of our instructors physically like holding or assisting in teaching the lessons, we required all but I think about 3 of our groups to be parent assisted. That way, basically what we did, we decided that since it's same household, that the instructor would teach basically the parents and say, hey, you're gonna hold the child here by under the armpits. Here's how you're gonna do a flutter kick. We completely took away equipment. So we had to figure out, hey, how are we gonna be able to teach someone to kick with a kickboard? So like, all right, how can we like use someone's arm, or like have them play like red light, green light with their hands on the wall, or whatever the case is. So we had to manipulate all our programs to basically make it a non-touch area or sense for swim lessons. And then we also broke down our pools, cut down on numbers of participants. And even when we cut down our demand for, we have a blue 1 and blue 2, which is the highest demand, we didn't fill 3 of our classes. A lot of people did not want to make it a priority this year, whether that was because of not being able to just drop their kid off and come back in 45 minutes. We had a lot of problems with people arguing about even wanting to get in the water. But one huge benefit that we definitely learned, and I think we might stick around with this or kind of work on it this winter to figure out what can we do to improve this, is that the engagement with a parent realizes, oh, hey, why is little Johnny not be able to swim or pass blue 1 for the 3rd year in a row? It's like, oh, he really can't do this, this, or this. And then it kind of gives them an engagement of understanding why something's not working, or is there other ways we can talk about, hey, maybe we could do private lessons or whatever the case is. So parent engagement was nice, but also it definitely came and bit us in the butt with regards to them not reading the fine line in our emails sent out about, hey, you have to be in the water with your kid. But like I said, overall, it was, say, 50-50, but honestly, a huge decrease in our numbers this year.
You know, I was thinking about that. We had the same thing here where, I mean, you could easily tell who wants it and who just wants to have someone else be involved with their swimmer and not be involved in the whole process. I mean, it was clear cut. I think, though, one of the positive things with it, and I'm not just saying just for here, but in everywhere, and I have results on that too, but the positive impact that it makes on the community. I knew, like for an example, I knew we were losing money quickly. Once we opened, we had hit our goal, but our numbers were still high in this county, so people started pulling out. We lost money. I'm getting ready to present to Park Board at some point and tell them, yeah, we knew it. We lost a lot of money. But in the survey that I sent out, it actually was more share your experiences. And to be honest, those parents loved them, and they're gonna carry it on to other families moving forward. So yeah. Anyways, there's positives with it.
We did pretty similar to what Farron described for his first session of swim lessons. Next, about a week out, the 21st, we start our fall swim lessons. And we've reduced from having like 8 or 9 classes going at the same time to typically 4, maybe 5 if we're using the deep end for a couple classes. Our numbers are actually looking pretty good. I think we only need to cancel a level 5-6 class. I mean, they're small classes. Even some of the ones where we would allow 5 or 6 kids, we're capping at 4. Similar to what others have said, the parents that are doing it generally love it, and the parents that don't like the idea maybe came the first day and threw a fit and said, I'm not going to do that. But it's a lot different with the low numbers, but it's been a good response.
Any others?
I would echo the same. We did reduce numbers, 1-to-3 ratio. We offered if parents wanted to get in, they were able to get in. We started with the buffs, and those really did not work out at all. We ended up drowning ourselves and then switched to the shields, and those seemed to work a little bit better. So just trying to, again, those learning curves. We had great responses with that. We had about 1,000 people that took swim lessons. We did it for the service so that, again, we could offer those as a safe alternative to lakes and ponds and options like that. I think still we learned, though, that there were other resources lacking still to reach all of those people, as far as transportation, meeting with some of the other groups like the school district that didn't have camps and didn't run things, so that we would set some of those people up to succeed this summer. And if we're in the same boat next year, we'll definitely look to making those resources still even more available, because we do a program where swim lessons are $5 if you're on free or reduced lunch. So that shouldn't be an obstacle, but just getting their kids to the pool and rides home was kind of a bigger challenge, I think, that we recognize. But still great feedback, and I think it was a positive experience for most.
We also had swimming lessons. We started off with pretty much all private, parent in the water for all levels except for like 5 and 6. Then we they were also allowed to have, it was like one-on-one, but you could have like a sibling, so everybody was from the same household type of thing. And then, still not quite sure if I was on board with this, but we ran pretty much a normal group type lesson, 10 kids in the class with a couple instructors. Tried to keep the same instructors with the same kids. Like you have these 5 kids, kind of break it out, but they didn't do a great job following that. But we actually had, our numbers were like one less than last year, total number of swimming lessons, or kids that we had participate in our swimming lessons. So we had pretty good participation.
I have another random COVID question for you guys. So we got rid of the cones or the megaphone type actions. Does anyone use those? I really ran into an issue of people just not even knowing how to do their job without this silly little cone that they use. They don't know what a lifeguard voice or their whistle is, and just relied on announcements and that type of thing. So I'm trying to get rid of those. Again, we've been in the habit, I guess, of relying a lot on those. Does anyone else use those? Just looking for some input on that.
We have them, and it basically boils down to lifeguard preference. Some use it, some didn't. Some have a really good lifeguard voice, they don't need it, and some that couldn't carry the voice used it. But I'd say majority does not use them right now.
Well, like I said, with COVID, yeah, we took them away, but like I said, it was just kind of a struggle with working on that lifeguard voice and also working on the tone of how to enforce rules without sounding like they're mad or upset or just doing it for fun. So anyone else know of anyone that uses them? Like I said, our pools aren't huge. There's a couple that are bigger lap pools, but our aquatic facilities, I mean, it's not a big facility. I grew up not using them ever, was just curious.
Do you use those to get kids' attention, or because we use whistle blasts?
Yeah, that's again, I saw this year that whistles aren't quite used as much as I'd like. Again, we have the air horn too, and so whenever they did a rescue, it was an air horn. They have their microphone things. But yeah, it was just different. I was just curious if anyone else used those, but I don't know. It was a fun year.
We don't use them, but I do force staff to practice whistles and loud voices at orientation and in service. And so we do it in a fun way, not to like embarrass or call somebody out in a mean way. But if somebody does a crap job whistling, we make them do it again. And it, you know, we get the team on board to encourage them, like, just give me the loudest whistle that you can, get it out of your system, just get it done with, and then it's not a big deal. I think it's just the nerves when they're not used to doing it. And then they feel like everybody's watching them. So if you can do that, get it out of the way, and then they're like, okay, not a big deal.
Yeah, still was just, I don't know, just such a barrier for them to not have this device on them this year. And again, some of them made it into the trash because they were so old and broken and gross. So I don't know. That's a lot of changes for next year. I'm not going to be my staff's favorite fan, I think. But
So Austin, did each of them have their own?
typically in the past, yes. But like I said, we did not use them at all this year. They stayed up in storage.
Right. Because that would be the only other thing, because, you know, with COVID-19, it's airborne, and if those would be a disinfecting nightmare.
Exactly. So that was kind of my excuse on why we weren't using them this year. But it just, like I said, was such a barrier for staff to not enforce rules or to communicate with the patrons that came because they didn't have this megaphone. So, and yeah, so like I said,
big kid voices.
Exactly. So a lot of them, I said, ended up in the trash because they were broken or just gross. And we still have some. So I'm still debating whether for my bigger pools that maybe we use those. But like I said, growing up in all the facilities that I've worked at have just used their lifeguard voice and some loud whistle blasts, and that gets it done.
Right. So we do what Jill does, and we do extra training. And one of our LGIs actually is a big stickler on it, and the whistle blasts and using their voices to let everybody else know what they're doing. So we make them do it over and over and over again until they get used to it. A lot of our high school students are pretty timid when it comes to that, but by the end of going through the class or the trainings with our LGI, she gets them out of their little funk.
So then on the flip side, does anyone use the air horns for rescues or strictly whistles as well for that?
We don't use air horns, but I'm going to throw this in too. We started, so a lot of times our lifeguard classes are during open swim too, so nobody would use whistles. But we did start giving the lifeguard classes whistles so that they're actually whistling in class, not doing tweet, 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 and having never blown a whistle before starting the job. So we did introduce, actually using whistles at a lifeguard training to help kind of instill that early as well.
Austin, and for the group, I did have an instructor when I was really young, like 16, 17. This might work. I haven't tried it. It worked for me. But the instructor basically was swimming underneath the water, and they would have the person stand above the water and blow the whistle until the instructor can hear it underwater. It was interesting. Loud, but interesting.
Not a bad drill. I like it.
We do use air horns at the outdoor pool for anytime a lifeguard leaves a chair, we hit an air horn and the pool is cleared. We've done that since 2004 opening, and patrons just know what to do if they've been there before, and it really helps.
Do you clear the pool with a whistle too then, or is it just the air horn that clears the pool?
Just the air horn. Whistles are just a correction or a attention getter or whatever. But if a guard leaves a chair for a rescue, then we clear the pool with the air horn.
Okay, how about if it's like an on-land emergency or something to that nature, would they still blow their horn for that?
Interesting.
Double whistle.
Typically, unless it's like if the guard was doing the rescue on land, then they would hit the air horn. So if that guard left the lifeguard chair, they would hit the air horn.
Okay.
If they were,
I just want to clarify.
Yeah, if they were trying to get attention of a manager to come deal with the situation, potential emergency, they would double whistle, and that's the cue for the manager to come out, investigate what's going on. But we did have 2 air horns this summer that were land related.
Thank you.
Left field on this. This made me think a little bit more about that air horn situation, going back to the first question. What, just kind of a thought or a possibility is on the in-services, having them practice not only blowing the whistle, but motioning the patron or their staff person to come close and get working on, because the thing is, like, when we're trying to notify people on the stand, we're blowing the whistle and saying stop doing that, but technically we should be educating them a little bit, right? And what we want to do is, if we blow the whistle, shouldn't we be saying, hey, come close, let me tell you, you couldn't be doing this. So if that is the standard, if that's what we want to do, then we should practice that in the in-services. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I added to my in-services as well that sometimes you need to make that eye-to-eye contact. So it's not inappropriate for a lifeguard to take their sunglasses off to have a quick, just a 2-3 second explanation, not taking focus off of the pool. But I really do like that. Instead of the guard talking through their sunglasses, that just to whip them off, have that brief encounter, rule correction, quick explanation, whatever it is. Because I think, especially as an adult, they're going to appreciate that more than a kid sitting behind their, sunglasses that you can't see their eyeballs.
Mm-hmm. And last one, Austin, did you have another question? You said you had tons of questions at the end.
I have tons of just inquiries on what you guys are doing. With Des Moines, they do things just a little differently, which is not bad. I'm just curious to see what others do. I want to make some changes and just was curious, but I'll wait. I think I need to still tie all my loose ends from this season. And then once I start working on the manual and stuff for next season, okay, I'll have a lot of questions for you guys.
I have a question for those that were doing lap swimming. Did you do 1 person per lane, 2 people per lane? What was your setup on lap swimming?
I swam in Grinnell with 1 person in my lane all summer. And swim team was set up the same way. Was my understanding. It was not on deck, but I did ask that question. They did allow if it was siblings or like a married couple, they could be in the same lane, but we all individually signed up for our time slot. So we just individually were in our own lanes.
Yeah. We've been one lane since we opened in June, one per lane and alternating ends that they get in. I was gearing up to start the switch to 2 people per lane, one starting at each end until our numbers in Story County blew up. So I'm back to hold on that, but I know I have some patrons that are going to go, well, I'm not comfortable doing that. And others that are. So I think right now I'm going to ease into it with, it's been strictly 1 person per lane. We're going to transition to 2 members of a household can share a lane first and kind of dip the toes in that way. But I was just curious if anybody was doing 2, or if, you know, I'm also personally being quite cautious. So I'm always like, well, is it just I wouldn't want to do this? Or, you know, am I being a stick in the mud saying, no, you can't? Or
we did 2 per lane, but granted, we don't have lane lines anymore. So, I mean, we're not restricted to that. We could do it. We just use the black line as our indicator. But I was thinking it through. Yeah, I like that idea. You know, if you dip your toe into the 2 person, maybe if you're doing a registration, you can ask that question, say, is a family or household attending, and go from there. Because I did that too, like Kelly. You know, we all, my friends and family, well, especially my family, we signed up individually instead of just one package. So
yeah.
I can say as a lap swimmer, I would not want to be put in a lane with someone else. If I showed up at your pool, if I signed up with the person that I lap swim with, I'd be fine with that because I walked with her on the days that we didn't swim, but I would not feel comfortable, and we don't even have the high numbers in Poweshiek County like you guys do. So, you know, if you were thinking about it, I would just say from a user's perspective that it would be a choice and not a, oh, by the way, here you go.
Right. And we have people that, I mean, people that are already like, so we're keeping 1 person per lane forever, right? And I'm like,
So we did 1 person per lane unless they were in the same household. So we had a mother-daughter come and then they would share a lane, but otherwise it was 1 person per lane.
we do have quite a few family members that would swim together.
Jenny, when you did your family of 2 people in a lane, did they have to be at the opposite ends, or could they swim by each other up and down side by side?
We didn't have a problem with the numbers, so we let them choose. Now, this mother and daughter that swim together, they swim all the time. They would go and swim inside the Y and then come outdoors, you know, so they were getting a lot of lap swimming in. So the mother would swim back and forth really pretty quickly, and the daughter not so much. But we never got to capacity of our lap swimming. In Marshalltown, lap swimming isn't as big as it is in other places. And because what our biggest draw for our aquatic center is our lazy river for water walking. So, you know, we probably only had maybe 4 lap swimmers any given day, and we had 6 lanes. So we were never full.
I just didn't know how, if you let them swim together, how does the person on either lane on the side of them feel about it? Because then you've encroached on that 6-foot distance saying, so might not have been a factor, but that's, I just kind of asked that to others that have allowed that 2-person, because then you're really, there's no point. Just put another person in every lane if that's what you're going to do. So
right. Kelly, that's why I started with just 1 person per lane, because I thought, well, the family members be okay with it, but then it's a trickle down. So I'm still going to have them alternate ends, you know, so they're not stopping side by side and then encroaching even more.
So in Cedar Rapids, it's 1 person, 1 lane, $5, get in, swim, goodbye, and That's how we're doing it.
How long's your lap time? Do you give them a full hour or?
No, because we got to build in some time for disinfecting. 45 max. Get in, swim, swim, swim. If you're not done, out you go at 45. Don't care if you run out in your little wet little swimsuit. Out the door you go.
For $5.
$5.
Wow, ours would
One
like
person.
gripe and groan if we charged $5 for 45 minutes. They
45
gripe and
minutes.
groan at $3 for an hour.
Supposed to be $5.25 for the hour, but I thought I was being nice by dropping it down to $5.
That was great, Carolyn.
Late, 45
That was
minutes. Goodbye.
You were saving yourself the headache of dealing with quarters.
All the quarters.
Yeah.
And then lifeguards only have to count as high as 5.
They don't even
1,
have to count.
2, 3, 4, 5. 45 minutes out of the pool. Goodbye.
Free registration.
Free registration, no money, no credit cards. Name's not on the list, not swimming today. Bye-bye. I do like patrons. I mean, by and large, if we, they're all right.
Bullshit.
Great job except for patrons, but no, we got to have patrons. So, and we stand to lose every day. We're going to lose, I think, $8 because that's maximum 5, 10, 15 people at $5. And our staff wages are at least $20 an hour. So, not a moneymaker.
Your pool probably isn't overall a moneymaker anyway, so.
What?
Relations.
Our pool at least loses $100,000 a year. I don't believe that. I'm not a moneymaker.
I will say I've been surprised that we've been consistently like 50 lap swimmers a day. So
for you.
Hopefully you get a surprise, a surprise on numbers. I started out thinking, well, I'm going to have to cancel some of these times, but let's see where they want to swim.
Yeah, well, we'll see. So, all right, Spence and I have to go down to do staff training so that we have 5 people ready to open on the 21st. So I will bid adieu to each and every one of you. Wish you good luck this week and keep your faces covered and make sure that you guys are doing okay, because these are not easy times for those of us that have these kinds of jobs. So take care, and we will see you guys and talk with you soon. Okay. All right. Bye, gang.
Anything else from anyone before we wrap up here? We're about 12:30 here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Brian said we had to fill till 2 o'clock. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I realized because like on my calendar, I gave my